Hello and welcome back to Whitney Alex Works recap of The Bachelorette Season 19, Episode 11, the finale, Part 1. Before we begin, please like and subscribe here at Whitney Alex Works for more recap videos just like this one. Alright, without further ado, let's dive right into it. Part 1 of The Bachelorette Season 19 finale starts with host Jesse Palmer welcoming us to the live studio audience format, where Gabby and Rachel make an appearance right off the bat. Rachel and Gabby are going to watch the ending of their journeys along with the rest of us, and we dive right in where we left off last week, where Zach asked to talk to Rachel before the rose ceremony. When outside, Zach tells Rachel his true feelings. He thought Rachel wasn't being her true self in the fantasy suites, and he felt blindsided by her. Rachel admits that she too felt off, so Zach's concerns aren't coming out of nowhere. Rachel then tells Zach that she wishes that they could have gotten there, there meaning they could have gotten further in their relationship, and with both understanding that they're at the end, Zach decides to leave before the rose ceremony, and with Zach leaving, now 3 men remain. Rachel's last 2 are Tino and Avon. And with Zach gone, we see him in the studio where he and Rachel meet up for the first time after saying goodbye that day in Mexico. Zach starts the meeting by apologizing about questioning Rachel's character, as he says he wishes he could have handled that whole situation better. Rachel then apologizes to Zach and admits that there were some strange vibes in the fantasy suites as she was coming to terms with her own feelings, and it seemed like Rachel was already leaning toward Avon or Tino before Zach's last date with Rachel. But the former couple does wish each other the best, and they both appreciate each other and the time they shared. And in my opinion, they end up with Zach seemingly clearing his name to be the next bachelor of the franchise. Of course, nothing has been confirmed, but it seems like Zach's perception is that he is ready to jump back into the ring of finding love. And of course, that could be as the next lead in the franchise. We head back to Mexico, where Rachel is getting ready to introduce both Tino and Avon to her family. We see Rachel's father, Big Tony, and her mother, Marianne, as well as her friends, all excited to meet the men Rachel has chosen. First up to meet the family is Avon, who Rachel introduces as someone she can always lean on and really feels confident in where they are in their relationship. Avon comes in and feels a little nervous, but breaks the ice by offering Big Tony a cigar, and then Tony takes Avon to talk. Tony comes across as hard, but he says he needs to ask the hard questions because Rachel is his daughter and he is looking out for her best interest. Avon does his best to tell Rachel's father of his feelings, and when Avon tells Tony that he is falling in love with Rachel, this seems to soften Tony's hard demeanor. After this, Avon talks to Rachel's mother, and Marianne says that she likes Avon as she can tell that they are really into each other, as Rachel seems very happy. But something occurs when Rachel's friends talk to Avon. Avon starts to doubt if he is ready for an engagement and really is just questioning if he can really propose in about 5 days or so. And with Rachel thinking everything is just fine and dandy, she gets the status report about what Avon said to her friends, and this shakes her to her core. She really thought that Avon would be 100% ready for an engagement, as that is what he said in the fantasy suites. And after hearing all of this at this stage in the journey, this makes Rachel very upset. After meeting the family, Rachel confronts Avon about what he said, and Avon tells her that his feelings haven't changed, but he isn't so sure about her proposal, but he does see her in his future, and he wants to be with her outside of the show. And Rachel is confused and upset because she feels so embarrassed about talking up their relationship, only to find out that Avon is really unsure about everything, and they go back and forth as it seems they are running in circles, and even though Avon is starting to doubt a proposal, he does tell Rachel that he is still in love with her. But Rachel is very upset and confused as she doesn't know what to think anymore and questions how they are going to move forward. With Rachel and Avon suddenly on rocky shores, we switch over to Gabby's storyline with Eric. Eric is getting ready to meet Gabby's family, and Gabby tells them that Eric is the only man left and that she really loves him. She brings him in, and Gabby's family is excited to meet him. Grandpa John is happy to see Eric again, as this is the second time they've met. And we see that Gabby's father is present, which is nice to see, as he couldn't appear back in Clayton's season. And the meeting with Eric goes very well as Eric impresses Gabby's father Patrick and her aunt, and Gabby thinks that her relationship with Eric can last a long time. And everyone there is truly hopeful for these two, and with the introductions made, emotions and all, Eric is accepted by Gabby's family. After Gabby's successful family meeting, we switch back over to Rachel and her family. This time, she is preparing her family to meet Tino, who was her first impression rose, but she tells her family about the debacle with Tino's hometown and his family, and this concerns everyone as Tino's lack of family approval seems to really bother Rachel. But nonetheless, Tino comes in and everyone is very excited to meet him, and Tino, despite his undying love for Rachel, seems pretty nervous to meet the family. And first to talk to him is Rachel's mother, Marianne, and she questions him about whether or not his family will truly accept Rachel. Tino believes they will. It just ultimately may be the whole process of the TV show romance, but Tino is serious about Rachel, going all in, thinking that eventually his parents will jump on board. And when Tino talks to Rachel's dad, Tony, Tino does his best to express how much he loves Rachel, but Tony is concerned about Tino's job as a general contractor. But Tino decides that he is willing to sacrifice his job to be with Rachel, and this impresses Tony, who tells Tino right then and there that he likes him. Well, that was easy, and Tino and Rachel leave on a good note, but in the back of Rachel's mind, she is thinking about how things went with Avon. When we next see Rachel, she is reeling about her miscommunication with Avon, and she goes to see him in his room. Knock, knock, Avon opens up, and the two of them sit down to talk. And Rachel opens up about her concerns, thinking that the two of them were on the same page, but apparently Avon has been doubting things since Fantasy Suites, and Avon admits that he wants more time with Rachel and doesn't think they should rush into an engagement. This revelation makes Rachel emotional as she comes to terms with her own wants, saying that she does want an engagement and that since Avon isn't there yet, she says that Avon can no longer give her what she needs and then proceeds to break it off with him. Avon is shocked, but he understands as he knows that his doubts may have jeopardized his future with Rachel, and the two of them say an emotional goodbye. And now with Avon being sent home, two men remain. One left for Rachel and one left for Gabby, but will either Eric or Tino propose? We head back to the studio where Rachel and Avon are ready to talk about what happened in Mexico during their time of filming. Avon comes out and the two greet each other with a hug. And Avon opens the floor by apologizing about how things ended with Rachel as he never intended for things to end up the way that they did. And Rachel says the goodbye was bittersweet as she did see a future with Avon, but at the time of filming they were in two different places. And what is interesting is host Jesse Palmer pressures the two of them to reflect on a what-if situation. What if Rachel and Avon stood through the turmoil and made it through together? But this angle is pretty thought-provoking as it's been teased that maybe Rachel doesn't get her happy ending with Tino after all, and it seems like for the sake of the show, Jesse is trying to see if Rachel and Avon could maybe give it a second chance, but for now, nothing happens of the sorts, and they both leave the conversation wishing they had better communication with each other. And with only two men remaining, one for each bachelorette, it's not about who is getting the final rose anymore, but will there be a proposal? We then switch back over to Gabby and we see her meeting up with Eric, and Gabby feels really good about where they stand. They both reflect about how they got to this point and whether they are ready for an engagement. The whole journey feels like whiplash, but there is true love between Eric and Gabby. And both Gabby and Eric know the stakes, that there is an engagement on the line, and Gabby doesn't want to pressure Eric, but she does want a proposal at the end of her journey. And Eric surprisingly starts to doubt getting engaged so soon, and then he says he wants to do the real world with Gabby and says he wants to date her all of a sudden. And this comment triggers Gabby as she thought her and Eric were on the same page and says she doesn't want to force him to propose, but now she doesn't know what to make of Eric's doubts. And then we are left with some very big unknowns as we are teased with a dramatic conclusion to the co-Bachelorette season that seems to be crashing down all at once. So that's it for part 1 of the live finale conclusion to Gabby and Rachel's season of The Bachelorette, where everything is suddenly at risk of crashing down. But we do get teased that the next Bachelor will be revealed at the end of the finale, which is pretty fun to think about, as the franchise must go on no matter how this season ends. Thank you for watching Whitney Alex Works' recap of The Bachelorette Season 19, Episode 11, the finale part 1. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe at Whitney Alex Works for more videos in the future. See you next week for part 2 of the live finale, which concludes on Tuesday, September 20th.